the marathon was a challenge because someone asked me a few years ago, Donna, what is it that you can't do since you had the stroke? And I actually thought it was an interesting question, and that's when I came up with running. And I decided to do it one night, and yeah, it was a struggle. I was hobbling, like I still hobble, but really hobbling, and tried it a few times, made it to 30 steps, and that's just when I decided, and I thought I need help, and that's when I went out and got help from.
You need help for what?
To learn to run again.
This is the Recovery After Stroke podcast with Bill Gassiamis, helping you navigate recovery after stroke.
Bill from recoveryafterstroke.com. This is episode 28, and my guest today is Donna Campisi. Donna survived a stroke at age 8, and doctors said she would never walk again. 30 years later, Donna leads by example, and as an adventure and performance coach, her programs are about resilience, achievement, self-belief, pleasure, and getting out of your comfort zone, which gives participants confidence to achieve any further goal they set. Donna loves to turn her big, scary dreams into reality, taking many baby steps and training to eventually run the full Melbourne Marathon. Now, if you are feeling a little disconnected from your support team due to restrictions from COVID-19 shutdowns and lockdowns, and you are looking for more support, you may want to consider Recovery After Stroke coaching. People that have already signed up for Recovery After Stroke coaching get 12 months of unlimited access, a private one-on-one coaching thread with myself via a private forum thread inside the coaching area. You have instant access to online training materials that can only be accessed by coaching clients. You get access to courses, monthly trainings, and challenges made by a stroke survivor for stroke survivors. You also get expert interviews that are only available to coaching clients and MP3s you can download for listening to on the go. All trainings are transcribed to PDF for people that prefer to read and take notes or highlight important bits for reviewing at a later time. You also get 2 live hour-long coaching calls per month where you can ask questions and get answers. You can access the site 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and complete training at your own pace and without needing to leave the comfort of your own home. To find out more, simply go to recoveryafterstroke.com/coaching. And now it's on with the show.
You know what I'm curious about? How long ago did we meet?
You actually contacted me, Bill, when I began the Run Donna Run campaign way back in 2012, 2013.
Oh, wow.
That was when I started it. And it started out as a fundraiser campaign, as you know, and now it's turned into my business name. But I remember you contacting me, and you just must have found out about me, and, you know, the whole connection with the stroke, was there. And I think you even wanted to meet up with me, which we did. And I think you were sort of inquiring back then about how do you go fundraising, all of that sort of stuff.
Ah, now I remember.
That?
Yes.
In Elston Week.
Yes. I remember that day. Okay, that was a significant day actually for me. It actually said a lot to me about who you were, and that was because that was a pretty big day for your family as well. Yeah.
Look, when I met you that day, because I know what you're talking about, my brother's death. I had just come back from Mildura, where my family live, and my brother, and the day before. And I had to come back for something, which, you know, is just one of those things. But I remember leaving my brother in hospital and saying, I'll see you soon. And that's what I thought. And then the next day, I remember, I made a time with you. So, you know, that was in the day, and, you know, things were fine. I probably didn't even let on anything was wrong, because we were all hoping and, you know, just thinking that, you know, things would be fine. And that evening is when my brother passed away. So that was a very significant day. Yeah, definitely.
It's interesting. It takes me back to a time when my wife's brother-in-law passed away. He was 31, and he had liver cancer, and he wasn't a drinker. He wasn't anyone who you would pick and say, oh, this guy, you know, has abused his body or anything like that. No, he just had a really rare disease. and it wasn't going to be fixed. So the challenge for us was, because we'd never been through something like that, this is significant for our chat as we go along. Because we'd never been through something like that, we just assumed that everything was going to be okay as well. Yeah. He was at that point where he couldn't shave himself because he didn't have a neurological condition. He couldn't use his arms. And he asked me to shave him. And even at that time, it didn't occur to me that he was not going to be around literally a week later.
Yeah, I understand.
You just don't assume that they're not going to be around. Your loved one's not going to be around. You assume that they're going to get better and come on, man, and whatever. And that's kind of left this thing in my mind about, you know what, back then it did, and I didn't pay attention to it until I became unwell. But back then it did. It was kind of like that hug that doesn't matter. Like that hug matters. Like I'll give you that hug. I'll say, I love you. And hopefully the last thing that I've said to that person who's unwell is I love you. And that's something that happened to me a few years later. It was the last thing I'd said to somebody in our family, and we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
And it kind of, not that I have regrets for, you know, not being around when other people have passed or, you know, haven't said g'day or whatever the last thing, but it just makes it feel better for me. And I don't know if it's about me or about who, but that remember to just tell people I love you, I think it's really important.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, my brother was the same, and you know, you're talking, I think when you're talking about, it was your brother-in-law, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was my wife's brother-in-law, so my brother-in-law.
Yeah, which is pretty close still. But I'm just thinking about the age factor. When my brother was young too, you know, in his 47, in his late 40s there, and had so much going, you know, wife, just an 18-month-old son. And excuse me, I'm just going to take a sip of water, sorry, or coffee.
Whatever works. There's no editing, Donna.
I've got water and coffee here.
We're not editing this, so don't lie. Don't tell us things you don't want people to know.
When I talk, like when I was, you know, I'm a speaker, and you are too. I just always get a dry throat. Do you?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the story. I mean, your brother-in-law and my brother, at a young age, you never sort of consider that. And my brother was in a state of, lying in bed, not able to do much as well. And you just think, and I mean, his faith and positive approach as well was so strong that that's all we could offer as well, to be strong, positive for him. And we just thought that, you know, he would come through. And it is, I think, especially when it's someone close to you, like, you know, and it's kind of the first time I've come across a death in the immediate family that is for someone that's at a young age. Like, you know, you just, I don't know, it was hard to accept. And even I think I was in a state of denial at times, because he lived in Mildura, I lived in Melbourne, so I didn't notice it. Not that I didn't notice it as much, but especially when I go to Mildura, I notice it more, because I expect Brian to be, you know, walking in the door of, you know, my parents' place, saying hi and that sort of thing. And it took some time for me to, accept that and acknowledge it, and even say it, yes.
I know.
Yeah.
It's tough. You know, it's significant though, because stroke happens to anybody at any age. And your stroke story is really interesting. Tell me a little bit about you before the stroke, and just let's give people a bit of an insight into who you are, like what you're about these days, and why is that?
Which one? Before?
Yeah, start with before.
You asked me so many questions in one. Okay, before I was just your average kid, you know, your average active, happy-go-lucky kid, you know, because I was 7 years old. So it happened at a young age. I can just remember, you know, just being active and wanting to play, and, you know, just sort of enthusiastic, probably the same as I am now, but I'm an adult. And It happened, when I was 7. So it happened the lead up to it was I was actually sick at home from school for a couple of weeks before. My mum took me to the doctor. We were concerned. I had symptoms like diarrhea and a throat thing, and it was just something that we were puzzled by. But then it got to the stage where, like, doctors just usually give you, I don't know, antibiotics, whatever. Yeah, and go home and rest. And then I remember going back to the doctor and struggling to actually walk into the clinic. My mum kind of was trying to help me, and it was something that, was going on with my foot. And at the bottom of my foot, we didn't know whether it was a bite or what. And I remember my GP wasn't there at the time. He must have been away. So I was seeing a, what do you call them? Emergency doctor.
Yeah.
Fill-in doctor.
Yeah.
There's a name for it. And so I suppose he didn't know me as well, and my mum. And my mum sort of, when we talk about it now, she said, I think he just thought I was an overprotective mother. But mothers always know. Do you know what I'm saying? And so I remember walking out of there, and he told my mum that I had tonsillitis. Anyway, it happened in the early hours of the morning. I was actually staying in my parents' room on the mattress on the floor, so that's how bad I suppose I was, because they were just really keeping a close eye on me, and because I had fevers, that sort of thing as well. And it happened in the early hours of the morning, and I woke up my parents, obviously shocking them.
Mm-hmm.
My body was shaking, my eyes rolled back. This is how my dad describes it. But I just lost all control of my body. I even wet the bed and just lost my speech then. And, my parents were obviously shocked and, called the ambulance and went to the local hospital in Mildura. They were puzzled. They did blood tests, couldn't work it out. And then they just said to my parents, we have to rush Donna to the Royal Children's Hospital in Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
So I was flown with my mum, my dad and my brother, racing in the car to get there. And when I got there was just this emergency team on me. And, they were puzzled, and they called me the mystery girl, the medical team. They just didn't know what was going on. So
now, do you reckon they didn't know what was going on because it was, what year was it?
1978.
Do you reckon it was anything to do with just...
I'm showing my age now.
I tried not to do that. I tried not to tell everybody, but...
It's okay. I actually am okay with my age. I celebrate every year, and you would too now, Bill, wouldn't you?
I do, absolutely.
Yeah.
Tell me, do you reckon it was a 1978 issue just because it was so early, they didn't have diagnosis, and because it had been such a long duration between when you woke up with the symptoms and then when you ended up in hospital? What's your gut instinct?
It could have been that, and it also could have been I had many symptoms. So in the end, when they diagnosed me, it was damage to the left side of the brain that affected the right side of the body. But there was also meningitis, staph septicemia. I had a hole in my heart, a heart murmur. I can't think of the name, it's spleno something or other, a swollen spleen, osteomyelitis in my right ankle, and I was just anemic. I was very thin.
Already. Enough, Donna. Enough. How can a 7-year-old be doing all of that stuff?
But also, I think it was an unusual situation for a child back then.
Yeah, big time.
Unfortunately, it does happen to children now, and it's more common, unfortunately. It's common at any age, as you know. But I think back then they were just going, what's going on? And then slowly as I progressed, they nicknamed me the Miracle Girl, which is kind of cool.
That's better.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a long progression. And I remember you asking me not so long ago when you were doing a survey of people who'd had strokes for your program. And you asked me something like, when were you, I don't know if you said cured or when did you get to a point where you were better? And I don't even know if there is that point, Bill, because I always just think there's room for improvement.
Yeah.
Like you've seen me walk. I walk with a limp.
Yeah.
My hand, when I was a child, was very clenched. It was like a claw.
Mm-hmm.
But now, I mean, this isn't the hand, it's this one. And now I can stretch my fingers out. But when I go to straighten my wrist, my fingers just want to go in. So, I mean, there's those things. But I can do a lot of things now with my hand, where as a child I wasn't able to.
Yeah.
And
tell me about.
Yeah.
I was going to say, sorry to interrupt. Tell me about that as a child. Right? So now you're 7. You're recovering, and you've got all these changes that have occurred to your body. There's nothing you can do about it other than rehab and all that type of stuff. And that's, I don't want to downplay it, not other than rehab. You're going through rehab and all those things. But what's it like to go back to school now and be a 7-year-old child that's different to what you were when you left, and probably the only child in the school that had these obvious signs that something wasn't right?
Yeah, by that stage I was 8. And I'm surprised they didn't actually make me repeat the year, because I was going in and out of the classroom. Mum would take me to physio, to occupational therapy, to massage. So I'm really lucky that I had all these treatments. But going to school, I went to a small school, and they were just always praying for me, and the teacher kept in contact, and they were just really lovely. And so I never got to the stage of, I never had that bullying thing. Oh, look at Donna, she looks a bit weird. And I don't remember, maybe they thought it, but I don't remember ever feeling that way, because I did go to school in a wheelchair. I wasn't able to fully walk. I had a walking stick, those quad ones with the 4
Prongs.
things.
The 4 feet.
4 feet, yeah. I don't describe it very well. There's a name for it. But I think everyone was just like, wow, Donna's back, and I felt that. I felt really, just grateful to be back. I mean, these are, when you talk about goals, and when I always do, when I, with speaking and my book and stuff like that, and anyone that sets big goals and achieves them, they always talk about their reasons why.
Yeah.
You think about your why. Why do you want to achieve it? And back then, I think it was for my family. I didn't want to be one of those, I didn't want to be a hassle, basically.
Yeah.
Sure, I was at sometimes. But I also, back then, as a 7, 8-year-old, you just want to be playing at school with your friends and your brother and sisters, and, just that normal stuff.
Yeah.
Everyday stuff.
But then do things change when you move from being a primary school kid into a kid at high school? What's that like? And now you're becoming a lady, and there's changes and there's different things that you're probably noticing. So what's that like for a teenager?
If you've had a stroke and you're in recovery, you'll know what a scary and confusing time it can be. You're likely to have a lot of questions going through your mind. Like, how long will it take to recover? Will I actually recover? What things should I avoid in case I make matters worse? Doctors will explain things, but obviously you've never had a stroke before. You probably don't know what questions to ask. If this is you, you may be missing out on doing things that could help speed up your recovery. If you're finding yourself in that situation, stop worrying and head to recoveryafterstroke.com, where you can download a guide that will help you. It's called 7 Questions to Ask Your Doctor About Your Stroke. These 7 questions are the ones Bill wished he'd asked when he was recovering from a stroke. They'll not only help you better understand your condition, they'll help you take a more active role in your recovery. Head to the website now, recoveryafterstroke.com, and download the guide. It's free.
Yeah, I suppose as a teenager, because I shifted school, I went to a different school in year 8, and that was like a big school. Like, it was over 1,000 students coming from a small, little private school. People, I think, still treated me the same, but I think you're more self-conscious as any teenager is.
Yeah.
But I still was your everyday outgoing person, but I kind of, because as a child I wore a caliper, and then I didn't. I grew out of that.
A caliper is something that is used to help support the leg, right?
Yeah, and it's attached to your shoe and your, yeah. So, do you know Forrest Gump?
Yes.
The movie? Do you remember him wearing calipers? Yeah,
Okay.
those, they don't even, I don't think they exist anymore.
Yeah.
I think they're an old school thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, I grew out of that, and what I've got, you probably, I'm not sure if you have this too, but I've got foot drop.
I don't have foot drop.
Okay. Foot drop is when, because normally when you walk, you land on your heel first, right? And then your toes. But I was landing on my toes first and then my heel. And I still do walk like that, like if I'm barefooted and stuff like that. And I tend to trip a lot. So at high school, I didn't have the caliper and didn't have the brace that I wear now. Because I have a brace now that lifts up my toes, and it's great. I love it. But I think I used to hold and hide my hand as a teenager and just wanted to be that normal kid. So I know what you mean. In the teenage years, you're a little bit more self-conscious, but I think my friends didn't really make a deal of it. So I'm really grateful for that. But back then I did have epilepsy as well from the stroke. So I'm fully controlled now. I take medication, but it was a bit of a juggling act as growing up with anything, because the medication, you had to sort of always alter it as you grew. And I was like at one stage having a seizure where it would be like one a week or whatever, and it was just unpredictable too. So that was something to deal with up until, I suppose, in my 20s.
Yeah.
I think.
Hey, tell me, when you were a teenager, what's something you wish you now, thinking back, that you could have told your parents to lay off of? Because they would have been even more protective, but they would have been coming from well, we need to protect her, or whatever kind of point of view, like a pretty cool, normal parent point of view. Yeah. But as a teenager, what do you kind of wish you could have said to them? Mum and Dad, now that I think about it, lay off or give me a break, or is there something that you didn't realize that you couldn't communicate at the time? Because you would have been just a cranky teenager anyway.
What makes you think that, Bill?
I've been one, and I know a lot of people who have been
What
one.
makes you think everyone is? No. I know what you mean. Parents are very protective, and I, as a young girl, maybe in my teens too, I don't know. I was always known as the sick child or the sick girl, or I don't know. I did not known as it, but I felt like it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I'd always hear even Mum on the phone, and if her sisters called, and you can hear the answers. She's going, "I'm good. Yeah, they're good. Oh yeah, Donna's good." Like I was like always, and people just ask because of concern, and and I'm kind of made to be the special sick child, and I didn't want to be. I wanted to be like my other brothers and sisters. So I don't think I would tell them anything different, because I probably told them when I was a teenager.
Yeah, right.
I remember my mum talking about me to another mother who had a daughter, or has a daughter, who had a stroke, and they wanted to meet me. And this was when I was in my early 20s. And I was talking to Emma, which was the girl with the stroke, and Mum was talking to the mother. And I remember hearing her in the background saying something like, "Oh, Mother, Donna is very determined. You can't even tell her what to do anyway." So I probably told them, like, "Mum, Dad, lay off. I can do this." Yeah. Even as an adult, even now, like I'm in my 40s now, and they're just beautiful people, and they just want the best for their children.
Yeah.
Who are adults now, but they sometimes go to do something for me, like when I was living with them, and which is many years ago, and I just said, "Look, it's cool. I can do it." It's just,
I know.
Protective parents.
Yeah.
Protective parents.
I know. It's all good, and probably understandably a little bit overprotective when there's such a number of challenges to overcome, to help you overcome. So not a problem from my point of view. I didn't ask that to sort of give parents a hard time. I sort of asked that to give an insight into what's going on, because it's likely that people are going to listen to this who are parents, and one of their children may have had a stroke, right? So it'd be a great way to sort of just give them a little bit of, you know what, if your kid's telling you to get stuffed, mum and dad, leave me alone, probably leave them alone, you know, because it's probably all right, you know, to leave them alone every once in a while, or to just lay off them, or just to give them some space and treat them normal. It's hard for parents. I don't expect it to be easy for parents.
Oh, sorry. Well, what I was going to say, because I do think it's important, because your listeners would have concerns. And what I want to say to them is, don't try to do everything, because I have worked in the past with people with disabilities myself. And sometimes there's staff that go in and just go, okay, bang, 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 let's do it all for them. And you're just kind of taking their abilities away. Just find out what they can do first. That's what I would encourage parents and family and anyone that, you know, is helping. And they all come from a good place. They want to help. And just see what they can do, and then go, look, do you need a hand with that? Or, you know, do you want me to lay back and stuff? I know it's a lot. I mean, it's patience too. People have got to have patience, like, okay, this is going to take longer for Donna to do, or whoever. I'm just using my name. But we've got to hold back and just see how she goes. And even if she does fall, that's fine. You know,
and it's kind of focusing on the strengths, like what are the strengths? Focus on those, and because what that does is, if people get results based on what they're good at, then they'll feel good about themselves, and then those things that they're not good at will kind of also, just by default, they'll get better at that as well. So that sounds like a good plan. So, you know, in your 20s,
I call it baby steps too. Like it's all baby steps, and just celebrate each step that's achieved, even if it's small. You know, go, look, excellent. Not celebrate as in have a party, you know, and everything like that. It's just like acknowledge it, and you know what it's about. Cool. So it's really important to not take things away from people, even though you want to help as much as you can and you feel helpless. It's similar to the situation, what you were talking about with your brother-in-law and my brother. Like, we wanted just to do so much to help, and all I could do, and you're the same, but I'll just speak for myself, was what he asked, and that was just be positive and, you know, don't give up on me kind of thing. And be strong for him. No, just don't turn up every day crying. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I get it. So, you know, in your 20s, when you've transitioned out of school, high school and that, did you go straight into working? Did you go into a career? What did you do then?
Yeah, I did have about, I think it was 1 year of just working any crap job. And then maybe it was a couple, because it was at the age of 20 where I studied. I went to uni. Yes, I was known as a mature age student. Not that I was mature. I was probably the least mature there.
We could probably struggle to say mature to you now, I reckon.
Thank you, Bill. You know me so well.
It's all good. So you went into uni. What did you study?
I studied primary teaching, believe it or not.
No, that makes sense to me. Kids would love being around you.
I actually love being around kids, but I actually changed my course halfway through. So I moved to Bendigo. From Mildura, I moved to Bendigo and stayed there for about 5 years, and now Melbourne. So I call Melbourne and Mildura home, I suppose, because, you know, I have family and it's still in Mildura, and, you know, I like to go there. You know, it's where I was brought up. But Melbourne, I can call myself a local now because I've been here for quite some time.
What did you study in Bendigo when you shifted from primary teaching?
Yeah, as you do as a uni student, got casual work, and I got work working with people with intellectual disabilities, and I really enjoyed it. And I I sort of asked other staff, like, what is there a qualification I need? What do I need to do? Because that was just a casual job. And they told me the course, and that's when I changed over and studied disability, funnily enough.
Yeah, that makes sense.
People sort of have asked me in the past, do you think that's because of your situation? I don't really know. I didn't think about it. Yeah.
Sounds like it felt good. And you went with it.
Yeah.
Did you get a qualification? Did you actually end up working in the industry?
Yeah. I worked for about 20 years in the industry.
Oh.
And what I did like about it is a teacher is just, okay, you're a teacher in the classroom with 28 kids or whatever it is, and that's it. Whereas in the disability field, there were so many different positions that I held, whether it was in adult training centres, so as a trainer, but also leisure, kind of leisure activities or stuff in the home, residential, the basic stuff that we take for granted. So teaching them skills to be independent or semi-dependent, depending on their situation. So I suppose that takes me back to the question you asked about before, the parents, sometimes, kids say, "Oh, get out of the way" and stuff. So that's why I think I was quite good in my role, because I did give people that space to actually try stuff, instead of, like, there were a lot of staff that would just go, "Oh, look, it's just quicker if I do it," and I just thought, oh, hang on, let this person try and grow.
That's disempowering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't do it intentionally. They did it because they wanted to do a good job and get things done. But in the long run, I see that as, like you say, disempowering, taking skills away that they can eventually learn with baby steps. I always talk about baby steps.
Yeah. It is true. Like baby steps. When I was going through rehab and I had to, regain the use of my left leg and my ability to walk, I don't know, 1 minute was too much at the beginning. It was exhausting. Trying to think about where my foot has to go and how to position my knee and my hip and all that kind of stuff. You don't think about that stuff, and you don't think that it's going to be difficult when, oh, by the way, just put your foot here, make sure your knee looks like that, do this, do that. I had no idea about that. And then 1 minute into rehab, I'm going, guys, I've had enough. I'm done. I can't do any more. And thinking,
for sure.
I'm physically, emotionally, and mentally drained, exhausted. So, of course, obviously now they understand, what happens to people who experience, neurological condition or challenges. So 1 minute was, that's it. Sit down, relax, and there's another rehab session in the afternoon. And that one there, we'll do another minute. And that minute grew from a minute to 2 and to 5 and to 10 and to then later on getting back to some kind of level of what was happening before. But at the beginning, that's if you can only do a minute, you can only do a minute. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually paying attention and going, okay, I need to rest now. I need to let my body, get over the shock of doing that effort, putting that much effort in. It's so much effort.
Yeah, I agree. I know what you're talking about. And I really want to help people that are listening too. So just to remember that, and people that are going through rehab now with the stroke as well, don't be so hard on yourself. Like, I know people can just be really frustrated and hard on themselves and just go, oh, look, I only did a minute, like you're talking about a minute. Like, be grateful for that. Look at that as okay, I've done a minute. That's awesome. Next time I'll try and do more. Or, next time I'll try and do it better, even if I still do it for a minute. I'll hold my knee straight or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Every small step is an achievement. Some people try, there's quotes I've seen and stuff like that about, always look forward, don't look at the past. But I think in my situation and yours as well, and many people that are listening, it's okay to look at the past, because sometimes, I just for an example, I saw someone who had some sort of ailment, like physically, who was doing a big challenge like Kokoda or something. I can't remember what it was. And he was just like being really hard on himself. And there was a lesson that he learnt sort of halfway through. He said, look, because he was going, just how much more have I got to go? How much more have I got to go? But then he sort of said, I've got to look back and look about how much I've achieved already, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the same with any day-to-day activity, whether it's someone that's listening who's going through a stroke now, or someone that's listening, it's not even a physical thing, but goals in life, you know, whether it's, you know, wanting to achieve a particular goal in work or play. Just, I don't think it's bad to look back.
Yeah, I agree.
I actually think, you know, like when I think about now to the doctor saying to my parents when I was 7 that Donna will go home, but she won't be walking or talking, I think that's just pretty awesome to look back on.
I know. Now you can't stop you from talking, but that's all right. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. No, it's a lovely thing.
Talking too much.
No, I'm being a bit silly. So I want to just tell people that Kokoda, people that are listening who are not Aussies, that Kokoda is a place where a lot of Australian people go to reenact what it was that some of the soldiers in the Second World War were put through when they were taken hostage by the Japanese. And it's a really long, I think it's a 3-day trek or something in the...
Depends how you do it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
in the most hostile...
95 Ks or something like that.
Okay, 95 Ks in the most hostile jungle conditions in New Guinea, Papua New Guinea?
That's right, yeah.
So it's kind of like a coming of age challenge where a lot of people go to experience what, you know, other people went through to give us our freedom, but also to get over the bullshit stories that we tell ourselves about why nothing, you know, or something isn't possible, and it affects people in a really positive light. So that's what Kokoda is. Now, I don't think I'm ready to do a trip like Kokoda, but what I went and did recently was the 1,000 steps.
Oh, did you?
You know, which is the Kokoda, the mini Kokoda Memorial in Melbourne, and you climb up the 1,000 steps up to the top to one of the mountains here in Melbourne. I forget even, it's in Ferntree Gully. And
Mount Dandenong, something like that.
Somewhere there, Ferntree Gully, somewhere like that. It's easy to find. If you type 1,000 steps Melbourne, you'll find it. So what it was the interesting thing for me is that when people look at me, they can't tell that I've had any issues with my body whatsoever, or my brain or anything. So it's very difficult sometimes when I'm not feeling well and the balance is a problem, and for me to say, hey, I need to sit down and please, I know I look normal, but can you give me your seat or whatever, especially in a train. And what happens is, for me, when I get tired and it's kind of like the leg stops to operate, but after only a certain point of time, and it starts to drag, and not drag totally, it just starts to lift a little bit less, and then I'm likely to trip, or I'm likely to, you know, just not walk correctly. I'm likely to sort of lean over and stumble. And that's what I noticed as I was walking up the steps, you know, getting closer to the 1,000th step. It's kind of like, now I need to again pay attention closely to where my foot is landing, so it doesn't land on the wrong part of the step. I don't roll an ankle and don't injure myself.
Yeah.
How common are injuries to people who are recovering from stroke that have got foot drop and have got the challenges similar to what you've got? At the beginning, maybe.
Because I know what you mean, because I've done 1,000 steps too, and I did have a few stumbles. But how common are injuries? Are you talking about... So ask the question again.
In your experience, like, how common were injuries to you when you're getting back on your feet and trying to sort of start to be independent and walk on your own without a cane or...
Look, I don't know about the injuries back then because it was a long time ago, but just even growing up, I've broken one arm once and the other arm twice. I fractured especially like fractured the wrist and all that sort of thing. Because when I fall, like most people fall and protect themselves with their hand, this hand just goes crunch. I've got, you probably can't see it, but I've got so many scars that are just, you know, they're the same, you know, one on top of the other.
Right.
On my hand for that reason. And I think it's my left knee that cops it. So I sort of land on the same position. So, and it is from foot drop, and it is just from, just, you know, when concrete is uneven and it can just only be that much. And I've just, like you're saying with the 1,000 steps, and this is just flat ground. But I can be walking along and just got to be really conscious, especially when I'm not wearing my brace, because I wear my brace for running especially, which is great. But some shoes that I've got, like dressier shoes, I don't wear the brace because it just doesn't fit in and all that. So I've got to, like you and like in a lot of people that are listening, really focus on where am I walking, how am I stepping. Even now, like it's like 30, it's going to be, maybe more next, what is it, 30-something, I can't even think, 30-something years anyway, my God, nearly 40 probably. Yeah, I think next year it'll be 40 years.
Do you want to do the math? Do you want to do the math?
I know, I mean, I can't even think.
How old are you, Donna?
Don't even get to me.
How old are you?
Shut up. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, it's like we were talking before about progression and stuff like that, and being so-called cured. I mean, you may never get to that stage. Whatever your goal of cured is, that's great. But there's still things for us to be wary of and to just focus on harder.
All right. So not cured then. I like to say this. Because that is a really massive thing, right? Like, I don't know if I used that word, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if you used it either.
Yeah. For me, what it is despite my neurological challenges and my left side issues, my arm and my leg, the numbness, the fact that my left side is colder than my right side, the fact that I don't feel as much on that side as I do on this side. Despite all of that, I'm healthier now than I've ever been. Can we at least talk about that? You know, do you see yourself as being like really well in your health, despite all of the stuff that we've got to take into consideration?
That's a good question, because after running, I think I am. I only started to learn to run in the end of 2012. And I remember saying when I was training for the marathon, I haven't had a cold, I haven't had this, I haven't had that, because of the exercise, I think.
Nice.
Like I have got things, and I've had a sort of a double whammy. At 14 years of age, I developed diabetes type 1. So when you get the cold or something like that, or infections of some sort, it takes longer they say it takes twice the time to heal and whatever. So that's another challenge in itself. But I think since running, just doing regular exercise, not everyone wants to run and whatever, but if you want to, and I back then I was really eating well. I I'm not perfect in my diet, but I think, just getting into a routine as well with exercise. I'm not like I said, I'm not telling you to run, but whatever thing you like to do, it gets you in a great state of mind as well.
Yeah, exercise is really important. When you talk about neuroplasticity and the brain healing and the brain recovering, there's amazing amounts of information out there about how exercise can do that. And I really encourage exercise. That doesn't have to be running a marathon, but it can be lifting light weights. And I'm not talking about at the gym. You can just do it at home, with whatever you can manage to hold, or strap to your arm if you can't hold it, or your legs or wherever. So it's really, really important. You've got leg drop. You walk with a limp, and you decided after I don't know how many years of not doing any exercise, you decided you're going to run a marathon. Come on, what's all that about?
Don't say that after not doing exercise. I was always a walker.
Yeah.
And I went to the gym quite regularly.
All right.
But yeah, the marathon was a challenge because someone asked me a few years before 2012, I was working with her actually, and she said, I noticed she was just looking at me funny, and I thought, what is she looking at? And she just said, she knew that I had the stroke, and she said, Donna, what is it that you can't do since you had the stroke? And I actually thought it was an interesting question, and that's when I came up with running. And I decided to do it one night, and yeah, it was a struggle. I was hobbling, like I still hobble, but really hobbling, and tried it a few times, made it to 30 steps, and that's just when I decided, and I thought I need help, and that's when I went out and got help from.
You need help for what?
To learn to run again.
Oh, you wanted to learn to run again. That question was enough to get you going. Hey, wouldn't it be nice to run again?
Yeah, because I always used to walk, like I said before. I was walking along Elwood Beach, and this one particular night, it was, when I say night, it was daylight saving, so it was a great night. I was just noticing more runners that night, and I thought, I should give this running thing a go. But then the voices start in your head. Everyone gets these voices in their head. It's not just me. And there was a voice going, Donna, what if you fall? And the other voice was going, well, you've done that plenty of times before. So I thought, I agreed with this one. I just went, yeah, I'm going to give this a go, because I was by myself. I didn't have anyone with me. No one was going to catch me. It was a concrete path. Yeah. And I was really excited because I didn't fall, and I was improving each time. Like what you were talking about a minute, I started at 20 steps and then thought, oh, I'll try again, 24. Oh, wow, try again, 25, and then got to 30. And it was just those baby steps, those small bits of improvement. And I thought, well, if I can improve in that one little stint, surely someone can coach me or train me, or, just I needed that kind of, I don't know, just to know how to run properly. You know how you were talking about walking, you take it for granted, and when then you're learning again, you kind of got to really concentrate.
Yeah, it was interesting when I was in rehab. One of the guys asked me, what are some of the things that I want to be able to do again? And one of the things was running, but it wasn't for a marathon. Forget that. No chance. No. Not for me. It was to run across the road to make sure that I get away out of the road, so that I'm not in the middle of the road when cars are coming past and I don't end up, being a target or whatever. Like, do you know what I mean? So he said to me, okay, why do you think you can't run? I said, because it feels like I'm running like a chicken, my legs not landing properly, my knees buckling, there's all this weird stuff going on. And he goes, right, well, why don't we come outside and you do a run for me, and I'll tell you how you're going. So he didn't record it, but he said to me, well, it doesn't look that bad to me. Because, you're doing this with your left foot a little bit, and you're overcompensating with this, and you're doing that. He says, let's give it another go, and now be aware of the things that I mentioned. That's exactly what I did. And I went probably to that rehab that was out of hospital. That was 6 months after I was released from hospital. I went to that for about 3 months. And in the 3 months, we went from me being completely uncomfortable with running to now being completely comfortable with running, but still not doing a lot of running because I'm just not up for it. But that was it. It was what you said. It was, I needed somebody to just look and go, hey, you're doing good. You're doing all right. Yeah. Give us a bit of confidence. Yeah. Is that what it was like for you as well?
Yeah, it was. But it was also being told, like Sean and Chris were both from a business, Brewster's Running, they're called.
Give them a plug. Give them a plug. Where can people find out about them?
BrewstersRunning.com. They're awesome. Yeah. But Sean coaches with the physical side of things. He's a musculoskeletal therapist, a running coach. So he really knows the body. And they're both runners. And Chris is awesome. He coaches more with the nutrition side of things, nice. What to eat, what to fuel your body with, that sort of stuff. So they're an awesome team. But Sean was really showing me in the beginning, when my first training with them, simple things again to do. Just like he was pointing out, my hips are not so aligned. I mean, this happened when I was 7 years old. So I wear also now a heel lift on my shoe. It's 2 centimeters. So I'm 2 centimeters out. Mm-hmm. So that was like something just to stand on one leg, raise the other, and make sure. So I had to look in the mirror, make sure my hips, every time I lifted one leg, make sure my hips were straight, because, you know, when you're running, you're always on one leg, and my hips weren't straight. So he was trying to get me to strengthen in that area. Basic things like that that I had never thought about, like you're talking about, your guide pointing out. So that was really just valuable in knowing that sort of stuff and being able to concentrate on that sort of stuff. I'm not saying I'm brilliant at it now already, but it's something to think about, how to hold your arms, all of that sort of stuff, taking the stress out of your shoulders, and you know the stuff that we have to think about. You know. But yeah, I didn't plan to do a marathon to begin with. I just spoke to Sean and told him about a little bit about me. Said, hey, do you think you can coach me to run? Do you think I'd be possible that I could do a 4K run? That's all I wanted to do. That turned into marathons.
What did he say? Like, how did he stooge you from going to a 4K run into a 40K run? Is it a 40K? Is a marathon a 40Ks?
It's 42.2 to be exact.
Oh my God. How did that convince you to do that?
Look, I told him about I told him a little bit about what I've told you already, but not so long. But I also told him how I wanted to use my story to inspire others. And I told him that I was writing a book, and I told him that I really wanted to help raise funds for the Royal Children's Hospital in Melbourne, who have helped me more than once and saved my life. Even with the diabetes, I ended up back there. And he said to me, Donna, if you want to do something big and create an impact, you should run a marathon. And I'm on the phone. Like, he'd never seen me run or walk. I'd never seen this guy. I'd met Chris in person, but not Sean. And I was thinking to myself when I was on the phone, this guy's crazy. But I did like his enthusiasm. And I remembered these words, and I really, for everyone that's listening, I'd really love you to remember these. And this is what helped me through the tough times as well. This goes for any goal, not just a marathon. But he said, Donna, anyone can run a marathon. It's all to do with your mindset. And I'd heard that before in other goals. I'd achieved other stuff in my life. But I thought, this is a friggin' marathon. I didn't say that to him. And I just said, after that, I said, look, let me think about it. And we met up in a cafe. I was trying to get Chris in, to meet up as well. But the three of us, we just couldn't get out together. And then I chatted to him more at the cafe when we met. And I still was unsure. I wasn't, I just wasn't, it wasn't like that where I thought, oh, yay. I did have some doubts and concerns. And my concern was, I said about injuries, basically. Yeah. I said to him, I've put a lot of work in this body, and you have too. You know that, Bill, when you put so much work in your body. And I said, I don't want to go backward. I don't want to end up in a wheelchair again, which I know was a bit of an exaggeration saying that. But I was trying to get my point across to him. And he said, look, Donna, you're going to feel pain. Everyone does that runs a marathon, but you're going to be, I'll coach you right. We're going to hold your hand, so to speak. And we'll get you over the line, Yeah. So I was just really, I think his enthusiasm and his experience, and same with Chris.
Sounds like they were very gentle as well, and warm and encouraging and loving. Sounds like they were more than just, come on, get out there, keep running. It doesn't sound like they were that kind of coach.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm not sure if Sean's going to watch this. There were times where it's tough, but I mean, I needed that.
Yeah, tough love is okay, but I'm not talking about like that crazy, not that stuff.
It wasn't
tough
boot camp style.
Yeah.
But it was.
I remember going onto a bike for the first time after stroke. That's interesting because balance and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. And in order to kind of encourage myself to do it, I interviewed Carol Cook, who is an amazing multiple Paralympic gold medalist. Like, I don't know how many she does. She has that many medals. She looks like iced tea or vanilla ice, or I don't know, those rappers with all the gold. And Carol won.
I heard that interview. It was awesome. Yeah,
she's amazing.
But I know she's a friend of mine too now, so she's great. I love her.
She's awesome. Carol has multiple sclerosis and rides a bike and she rides a three-wheeler, so a trike, obviously, because of balance issues and all that kind of stuff. And that occurred to me that could be a good solution for me and other people recovering from stroke. Recently, it occurred to me, because when I was getting back on my bike, my leg would slip off the pedal.
I was going to ask you that.
And then the pedal would come around and take all the skin off my shin.
Oh, shit.
And it would kill, right? It would be terrible.
I saw. Sorry.
It doesn't matter. We're all adults here. And then what would happen was I'd have to look at my foot to get myself to that point where I knew where my foot was on the pedal so it wouldn't fall off again. And then you can't ride a bike looking down. You need to be concentrating where you're going, right? It's an issue.
Yeah.
And as my foot would get more and more tired, same with the walking up the 1,000 steps, as the brain gets tired and the fatigue kicks in, the foot stays on the pedal less and less. And it's a big issue. So I got a stirrup to protect my foot, right, to keep it on the pedal. And that was a really good solution.
You did that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great
so did you have to have it around your ankle as well?
No, just
because that's what and that stayed on.
Yeah, so my foot's on the pedal. The stirrup is just on the front where the toes are, and it just stops the foot from falling off either forward or sideways. That's a great thing, right? Except when you stop the bike and you're used to putting your left foot on the ground and you forget that it's in a stirrup. And you go to put your foot down. So
you can't actually take the foot out of the stirrup once you stop?
You can, but you've got to move your foot back and then put your foot down. I just took my foot and tried to take it onto the ground directly. Fell over.
Oh, okay. Did you injure yourself?
Yeah, just elbow, scratches, that kind of stuff. In the middle of the CBD, riding, and there's this sign that says, construction road ahead, work ahead, dismount your bikes. So I went to do that. I was going fast enough and that I couldn't stop very quickly. And it just didn't occur to me that my foot was in the stirrup. So I went to get down and I just bang. I slid along the ground. The guy came running over, going to me, "Hey, are you all right, man?" Yeah. No, it's all good. No worries. Whatever. Tried to brush it off, got back up, walked the rest of the way because I was too...
look, at least you tried it. That's good. Have you tried it again since then, or are you just like...
I have. I've tried it again.
Yeah, because I've spoken to Carol about this and she's trying to talk me into, doing what she's doing. And I haven't yet. The thing with me is also balance. My balance is crap. I just can't use any other word. Yeah. And that's what, getting on a two-wheeler, I would need training wheels. And then when she said she used a three-wheeler, I thought, oh, that sounds awesome.
Yep.
But I'll tell you what my issue is, like putting the foot, because when I've used exercise bikes at the gym.
Yeah.
And it just always slipped off. So the trainers, tried to tighten the thing that they've got in there and everything. But once that was fixed, my knee leans in. So it hits the actual frame, the middle, the frame of the bike.
Right.
And I just think, do I get a cushion in between or a knee pad? I don't know. And that became frustrating for me. So, yeah, there's one thing and there's another, and
that's interesting, isn't it? And we've got to be so creative. People have to come up with really creative ways to solve their problems, and I can see why people would think, stuff it. But what I love about you is, even though you were told to run a marathon, even though you knew it was going to be hard, painful, you might trip and fall, you still ran a marathon. Tell me, which marathon did you run?
It was the 2013 Melbourne Marathon, yeah.
Wow.
And it was a horrible day too.
Weather-wise?
Yeah, it rained. It was really super windy. And it hailed at one stage. I just thought, oh, my God.
Everything that can go wrong did, huh?
No, but, it was good.
That's a typical Melbourne day, though.
Yeah, true. If you have it too hot, you don't want to run a marathon either.
Yeah, right.
But I just had so much support along the way as well. It was just awesome. It didn't matter if it rained or hailed or whatever, because it's not like you can change an event, keep going, just do it, whatever. Things are not going to always go your way is what I tell people with any goal.
And what were you hearing in the background? Run, Donna, run.
In the background As in the voices in my head, you mean? Or?
Yeah, or were they going, get out, Donna, go home?
No, I never thought of giving up and going home that day. I just kept going. There was too many reasons why for me to keep going.
Yeah. So Run Donna Run is your catch cry though now. You use that. That's your branding, right?
Yeah. It started as the campaign name, and now it's my business name. I just stuck with it, even though I'm a bit like, well, everyone thinks I just run all the time. Now I'm training to hike Kokoda, so I'm not always about running, but everyone sort of said, look, that's what people know you as. Just stick with it. So
hike, Donna, hike doesn't go, doesn't roll off the tongue. Are you wearing your T-shirt at the moment?
Yes, yay.
Stand up.
Can we see it?
There's no such thing.
Do you like the I can?
Oh, I love that.
It. Yeah.
Where can people get those?
These are on my website, and I actually started with the T-shirts, and there's another quote that I really love that I just came up myself one day when I was going through a challenging time, is the power is in me. And that's when I just decided, look, you've got choices to make. You can sit on the sideline or you can just go for it. That's the choices that we all have. So I loved that quote, and I did the power is in me as well. But everyone, after the T-shirts were done, because I've had these out since 2013, women were saying especially, are you going to do tank tops as well? You know, we'd love some tank tops. So I've done different tops. If you go on to rundonnarun.com.au, you'll see there's a range of tops, and they all sort of have quotes on it to keep you motivated. So that's what I love about them.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. They're trendy. I like the way that you've used the colours, and they really stand out. They're amazing. They're really cool. So a little while after you did the marathon, the book happened.
Yeah. You have it. Thank you.
I'm trying to, there you go.
Yep, that looks good. We can see it.
Now that looks like a pretty, it's a great book actually. It's a very easy read.
It is.
For people who have got eyesight issues, you know, there's it's nice big text. All right. And it actually is an amazing sort of way for you to tell a story about like how you've come from the challenges that you experienced, what it was that motivated you to run, and how it was that you eventually overcame all of the challenges so that running a marathon wasn't going to be something that you ever gave up on. I love the chapters in it, and there's one particularly that I like because I talk about this all the time as well, is winning a language. Tell me about winning language. What is winning language to you?
I talk about it as well when I do talks, and I do this with students as well, but, you know, adults, whatever talk I'm doing, is I say to people, be your best friend. And they look at me and go, what? And it's an example, I'll use an example of when I was really struggling at first with the running and training, and I'd run, walk, and just sometimes just really be tired and just go, just beat myself up. You know, stop, Donna, get back to it. You're being hopeless. You're being ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. And all that language that is so commonly used to ourselves. So I changed my way of thinking. I think it was my coach that actually advised me to do this, and it was the best, what's the word? Advice, that's it. And it was like, talk to yourself like you'd talk to your best friend. Like if someone was running beside me, my best friend, say, if she was running beside me and she said, oh, Donna, I've got to slow down for a minute. I've got to walk. And you'd normally go, are you okay? And I'd go, yeah, I just want to walk for a minute. And then you just go, okay, so you've been really doing well so far. We'll walk, and then at least we're moving forward. All of that sort of stuff. You would talk like that, you know, and just praise and whatever else you would give your best friend. Whereas we tend to be just really hard on ourselves. So that's an example of the winning language. And also I think also when someone asks you something too, like, can you do this, or like, you know, or can you run? you either say yes or no. But then if you ask the question, how can you run? You kind of think about, how could I possibly run? Maybe I could get a coach. Maybe I could just start with jogging, or maybe I could do this, or maybe I could do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's even not, let's not just use a running example of anything, like a life coach, you're a coach. How could I possibly afford to see a coach? And then you think about it. Maybe I could do a payment plan. Maybe I could, save more, not get so many coffees and that sort of thing. Or if you could just ask someone, can you afford a coach? They're just go, no.
Nah.
Or yes. I just, that one-word answer, but just think about it. So I always just sort of think about, winning language as in also encouraging each other, but yourself, and praising. Like, instead of using, I don't know, just negative stuff on yourself. I think people, What did you get out of it? What, if you liked it so much, what was your thing?
Look, winning language for me is the big thing, because I tell this story where I've noticed language when I was in rehab. So if people have been listening to all the episodes of the podcast, I've said this a number of times, but it's stuck with me. So when I'm in rehab, doing arm rehab, I've got my arm stuck in a rice box, a box full of rice, and I've got to find these little trinkets or marbles or pen lids, and I've got to identify what they are before I take it out. So what the rice does is overstimulates all the sensory neurons, and somehow to retrain my brain to find items and identify them without looking at them, we've got to do this task. And there's about 12 things in it. And I've got my hand and I'm stinking my hand in this rice and I'm digging around for all these things. And across me is a guy who, I think his name was Ivan. And Ivan had also experienced a stroke. He was in a wheelchair, motorized one. And his task was to pick up an empty toilet roll and just move it from one side of his body to the other and place it down. And I think it was with his right arm. And he had the problem of opening and closing his arm. And he also had the coordination issue. And he also had to, put it down, which was, again, a bit rough because his hand was moving too quickly or too slowly. And he was getting frustrated and he was just calling his hand a bastard. And right, you know what that means, and I know what that means, but he didn't realize what he was doing. So I'm being a coach, right, and somebody who had a business in the past, that still has a business, and noticed people talk in ways that are not beneficial to me or to their outcome or to the goal that we need to achieve. I had my hand in the box. Hey, Ivan, tell me, if your hand moved, what would it be? Because you'll be my friend. I said, well, if it's going to be your friend, why don't you just call your friend now, pretend that it has moved and just see what happens, And he was keen to please, he didn't really mind me interrupting his, effort to move his arm. And he goes, all right, come on, friend, move. So if you're listening now or watching this on YouTube, do that to yourself in a moment, pause and call your hand a bastard and notice how your body changes and what you feel inside, how your heartbeat changes, how your thoughts in your mind change, how your gut changes, the tightening or the, clenching or whatever of the gut. Call your hand a bastard and then change the words and call your hand a friend. And then see what happens to the change and what shifts and how you feel. So he did that. And he's picked up what he couldn't pick up previously, like minutes ago, a second ago. He's gripped it, he's put it over, he's put it down, and it stood up. Awesome. And his eyes lit up, and the room went mental, like all the people around were cheering for him and all that. And he realized for the very first time that word, bastard, was in the way between him getting results.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened to him afterwards or how far he's come, but I've got a feeling that his recovery would have turned the corner at that time, because now his leg is also not a bastard now that he's learning how to walk again. His knee is not a bastard anymore. His hip won't be a bastard. There'll be no bastards in his body. There'll be just friends.
Yeah. It's similar to what we're saying. Yeah.
It is, right? So that's why I loved it when I went through the book and read the book, and that's the chapter that I got stuck on, because I don't often hear a lot of people talking about winning language when they're going through something rough or something tough.
Yeah.
I hear them talking about all the crap language, and and they're not aware of it. And Ivan was not a bad guy, and his intention wasn't to not learn how to do this. His intention was, but he just didn't. He wasn't consciously aware of how he was getting in his own way.
Yeah, I love it. I've got an example. Have we got time?
We have.
Yeah.
We're coming to the end, but we have got time.
Right. I've got an example of when I used to, and this was only a few years ago, it was before the marathon though, get up and talk, like in front of an audience. My hand would kind of just automatically, I don't know if it was a nervous thing or what, just kind of clench and move up. Because it used to move up and that all the time, but I'm always wary of putting it down. But I don't know, I just got this nervous sort of thing. And I said to a man who was my coach once, and I said to him, I told him about that, and I said, I don't know what it is. And I'd always try and pull it down and just try and make it not obvious and trying to get it out. And he just grabbed my hand and he just held it and was rubbing it and just said, Donna, just love it. Just love it. At the time, I'm going, what? But now, when I thought about it more, I thought, yeah, what I was doing was trying to hide it, and and I would do that, like you're saying before, at school, probably at high school, even with my leg brace that I wear now and have been wearing probably since just in my 30s. That really helps me. I always, like on a really ridiculously hot day, Bill, you won't believe this, I would go to the gym and wear long leggings or tracksuit pants to hide it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Now I can't believe I go on, social media, the whole world and everything has seen me with this leg brace.
The cover of your book.
Yeah, exactly. Because I remember the first time I actually wore 3/4 pants and went for a walk, and I was with my partner at the time, and I said to him, oh my God, thinking the whole world was looking at me going, oh my goodness, it was all about me. It just wasn't. And I just had to really get out of my head all that stuff, like that, everyone's looking at that sort of stuff when they're not.
They're not. No one gives a crap.
Exactly.
They're too busy being on their phones or, trying to get to work or catch a tram, or most of them don't give a crap.
Yeah, and that's what I really want to say to people who are listening, who are going through a similar thing. Like, just get over yourself.
Yeah.
I know that sounds really harsh, but I'm saying this out of love.
Yeah.
Get over yourself, because it's like your friend in the house, Ivan, was that his name? Like, once he got over that and actually was kind to his body as well and that sort of thing. Yeah, it was, and the reaction of everyone cheering him and stuff, that must have been a buzz for him as well.
It was.
And that's what I talk about in the book, about celebrating the journey as well. Make sure you celebrate every step and just be happy with how far you're going, even if it is small steps.
Yeah, cool. You know what just occurred to me? If anyone's listening and they are involved in making calipers or braces or all that kind of stuff, make them a bit sexier. Yeah? Make them look like a tattoo or something that people can look at and go, hey, that's interesting. I love the way that looks.
I've seen them coloured and all that sort of stuff, but I decided just to go plain. And the guy that does it for me is Darren Piera. Is that how you pronounce his name? He's awesome. Like, I love him. And he does stuff for the Paralympians. Like, he's in Melbourne. He's based in Melbourne, and he does some, great stuff. And I love my brace now. Like, even when I got the heel lift, I was so embarrassed about my heel lift on my shoe and the brace, and then tried to hide it and all that sort of stuff. I show people now. I've seen people in the community that will ask about it that actually need it themselves or know someone, and I'll pass on Darren's name and number to them because he's in my phone. And it's actually helping other people. Like, and that's what I'm using my story about. Like, anything is, if it helps someone, and that's what's in my books about as well.
Yeah. It's a tool. Yeah. It's a tool. So like runners, people who run marathons who are able-bodied, completely able-bodied, they use the best shoes that they can get.
Yeah.
if you've got heel drop or one foot's longer than the other, well, you need to get the right tools to support you to get the right results that you need. So it's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's just a tool that's specifically unique for you. And we're lucky because we live in a world now where these tools are available and people can make them for us, and it can help us. So I could talk to you forever about this topic. We could continue and continue. Maybe we need to do a second episode rather than just go for 15 hours.
Oh, thank you everyone for listening. But can I just quickly say,
absolutely,
and this is going to sound funny, you're a tool. Like, you're one of those tools, Bill. And not a tool
I've been told plenty of times that I'm a tool. Yes, thank you for reminding me.
But you're a tool in a positive way. Like, people, like what you're doing and people listening to you and that sort of thing is a tool in itself, because you're telling people your experience, but also interviewing people about, what are they doing and helping other people. That is a tool in itself.
Yeah.
So well done.
Yeah, thank you. That's why I tell people at the end of every episode to share.
I'm a tool.
I'm a tool. I will from now on. I'm a tool. Use me, guys. Share the episode to somebody who might like.
Yeah,
like it on Facebook. Give us a 5-star review on the iTunes channel. You can go get to the iTunes channel from going to www.thetransitloungepodcast.com and then clicking the link at the top of the page which says subscribe at iTunes. If you click there, it doesn't subscribe you automatically, but it'll take you to my page where you can give me a review and subscribe if you like.
Yeah.
So give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Every time you leave a comment somewhere on one of my pages, what will happen is Google will see that as being useful content and will rank it higher, and will get it to people that need to hear this, people who are recovering from stroke, carers of people who have had a stroke or another neurological condition. And the whole purpose of this podcast is to get it out there so that we can debunk all the myths around what's going on when people experience a stroke or another neurological condition. So I would love it if you do that. Donna, where can people, give us all of your websites, where can people go to find you? I will have links in the comments of the YouTube channel and on the podcast page to brewstersrunning.com.au. Was that right?
Yeah. Oh, that's my coaches. Yeah, brewstersrunning.com.
And tell me your ones. .com, brewstersrunning.com.
Yeah. Mine is, like, you can see my tops, my coaching and my book, everything on, I've got a workshop coming up too, which is awesome, on rundonnarun.com.au. And you can, I think everything's on there really. I do have another website for the book. It's theunlikelymarathoner.com. But the book's on Run Donna Run anyway. Like, so I would head straight to rundonnarun.com.au. Thank you. I love you putting it up.
It's a good book. People need to read it.
It is a good book, and it is an easy read. That's what I want to tell people. I've actually even given it to my nephew. He's 14 years of age, and kids can even. I've had someone, a child. I don't even know how old she is. She's 11 or something. Has given me great feedback. She's a runner, so she really got into it, and so anyone can read it. As you know, it's an easy read, and that's what I wanted to make it. Yeah.
Awesome. You've done that. You've done an amazing job of inspiring people. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I truly appreciate it. And I look forward to continuing our awesome friendship. And
thank you. Likewise.
And so many good things have come out of this stroke for me. So meeting you and a whole bunch of other amazing people has made my stroke journey a lot better. So thank you for being so generous with your time as well.
Oh, that's so special. Thank you so much, Bill. It's been great, and I hope this has helped somebody out there.
I'm sure it has. Thanks, Donna.
Discover how to heal your brain after stroke. Go to recoveryafterstroke.com.
Medical disclaimer: courses, podcasts, and website. Importantly, we present many podcasts designed to give you an insight and understanding into the experiences of other individuals. Opinions and treatment protocols discussed during any podcast are the individual's own experience, and we do not necessarily share the same opinion, nor do we recommend any treatment protocol discussed. All content on this website and any linked blog, podcast, or video material
is created and produced for informational purposes only and is largely based on the experiences of Bill Gassiamis. The content is intended to complement your medical treatment and support healing. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as health advice. This information is general and may not be suitable for your personal injury circumstances or health objectives. Do not use our content as a standalone resource to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease for therapeutic purposes or as a substitute for the advice of a health professional. Never delay seeking advice or disregard the advice of a medical professional, your doctor, or your rehabilitation program based on our content. If you have questions or concerns about your health or medical condition, please seek guidance from a doctor or other medical professionals. If you are experiencing a health emergency or you think you might be, call 000 if in Australia or your local emergency number immediately for emergency assistance or go to the nearest hospital emergency department. Medical information changes constantly. While we aim to provide current quality information in our content, we do not provide any guarantees and assume no legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, currency, or completeness of the content. If you choose to rely on any information within our content, you do so solely at your own risk. We are careful with links we provide, however, third-party links from our website are followed at your own risk and we are not responsible for any information you find there.